Welcome to the Wellbeing in Practice podcast, bringing you the latest in complementary, integrative, and functional medicine conversations. I'm Tanya Borowski, Head of Education at Amrita Nutrition, and your host. Each month, we will be presenting a new episode with a broad variety of guests from clinicians and industry leaders, and will bring you enlightening, engaging, and actionable content to optimize your own or indeed your client's health journey. Today is our founders episode. And of course, I have with me the founder of Amrita Nutrition, David Brassey. What a thrill. David, welcome to our inaugural episode of Wellbeing in Practice.
Thank you, Tanya. Delighted to be here. I'm very honored to be in the first episode.
Well, it's your company, so it has to be. David, it's been such an exciting journey, hasn't it? The journey of Amrita Nutrition. And you and I met many years, well over a decade ago, when you had a business, Functional Nutrition. And I think it would be really, really lovely for our listeners to just have a little bit of an understanding of how you came into this industry, and also sort of how your experience has grown to land at where we are now with Amrita Nutrition and what that stands for. So how did you get into this industry, David?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, so it depends how much time you've got. I don't want to send everyone to sleep, but I've always had a fitness background. From my formative years, been into sports, exercise, and that took me to health clubs. And I started a long time ago. I started off as a personal trainer in a chain of health clubs. So really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the one-to-one interaction with the client, and because it was something I enjoyed doing, it didn't really seem like a job, which was fantastic.
Okay.
So yeah, and quickly gained quite a large portfolio of quite high-end clients, which was great. So I opened a lot of doors socially, and that was great too. Then I got approached by the manager of the health club saying, how do you feel about moving higher up the ladder? We've got some aspirations. We think, you've got some potential. So from there, I was promoted to a gym manager, and it was a massive gym. So that was quite a big job. And looking after the team of personal trainers, making sure that we offered the best customer service we could offer. Got the best trainers on board, and the club went from strength to strength. On the back of that, then they thought, well, maybe we'll look at introducing him to management, and that was when operation of a new health club was offered as a potential career move. So that took me to a brand new start building a health club from scratch. So I arrived on site. There was nothing there, really thrown at the deep end, and had to liaise with contractors, this, that, and the other. So far out of my comfort zone, you would not believe. Anyway, we opened an Esporta Health Club in Wolverhampton with 3,500 members.
Wow.
And it was a great success. It nearly killed me. The stress.
How old were you here, David?
I would have been early 30s.
Okay.
So super stressful, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But sort of enjoyed it because it was a challenge and it was a project, and that was great. Got everyone on board, opened the club, and it all went downhill after that because it was all about numbers.
Right.
All they were interested in was the bottom line and numbers, and that was, well, it's funny. It's funny when we talk about nutritional therapists and when we talk about practitioners or industry, we're not the best with numbers generally.
No, we're not.
We are people. We are people. We love interaction with our patients. We're so into trying to achieve the best we can possibly achieve outcome-wise for our clients. And we tend to take our, I'm talking generally, here, but we tend to take our eye off the ball with regard to finances and stuff. And I've never had interest in it, to be honest. And yeah, so it was pressure, 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 numbers, figures, hitting the numbers, and it wasn't about looking after clients, which has always been my philosophy throughout my entire career. So hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I thought, I've got to get out. I've got to get out of this industry because it's not. My whole ethos had been taken away from me. It was all about finance and not about clients. And the final straw, I mean, you can cut this out if you want, because I might be going on too much, but the final straw was I got called to head office meeting and they said, your maintenance budget is far too high. And okay, well, I want everything to work all the time. So I've got a maintenance guy and I've got a huge inventory of spare parts. If anything breaks down, he can fix it straight away rather than wait a week to get stuff fixed. That was unacceptable. My budget was too high. It wasn't about the end user. It was just purely about bottom line.
Bottom
And
line.
I thought that's it. I'm out of here. So handed in my notice. They begged me to stay a few extra months, which they did till they found a replacement. And then I had accumulated, a decent sum of money. So then I opened my own studio.
Oh, okay.
Personal training clients one-to-one. So back to my roots, I guess.
And was that in Sheffield?
That was in Sheffield.
Okay.
So yeah, went back to Sheffield, yeah, quickly and surprisingly, the clientele grew. Lisa, my wife, did integrative therapies, and it worked really well. Yeah, built a busy practice. Got more and more complex patients, and I started to think, there's more exercise is important. We're designed to move. It's fundamental. But what we eat is fundamental too. And I need to find out more. I need to do some more study.
Okay.
So I went back to naturopathic college and I did 4 years in a postgraduate diploma in nutritional therapy. And that was really hard because I was trying to maintain my income by seeing my PT clients whilst studying.
Studying, yeah.
So, and going to college and homework and research, and that was super challenging.
It is. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners practice where they will all be sort of sighing. I mean, a big in terms of sort of with relief, knowing that they're not alone, because I think it's probably fair to say that most people come into this industry either as a second career. I think that is changing, but I think most people come into this as a second career, and they are, when they're studying, they are also juggling maintaining their current career or their sort of and or a family. And it's an awful lot. It's an awful lot because it's also taking time away from your family to study, and that it's a massive commitment and it can feel very isolating. So I think it's really heart rendering for people to hear that that's exactly how you started, and people, because you can feel quite isolated when you're in that situation.
Yeah, it was, for example, the first client was at 7 a.m. in the morning, and the last client was 9 p.m. at night. There were little gaps in between, which I used to do study, but I used to have to get up earlier, a couple of hours earlier.
Right.
So up at 5 doing some studying. At night, I was so wiped out, I couldn't do anything at night. But and that's what it was like for 4 years. And thankfully, I got through it. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the study, and I loved just learning more about a field that, it was growing, all emerging science was coming out all the time. And I found it fascinating in that nothing changed, nothing it's always changing, always evolving. You're learning new things all the time. And I was hooked. So I qualified and started integrating nutrition with personal training clients with a view. Then we took on another personal trainer to offload my personal training clients to a new trainer we'd got on board. And
Right.
that's what happened. And I took on more nutritional therapy clients and really got a very busy, successful practice going. And I think that the foundation of that success was really the fact that I'd already got a database of clients through personal training.
Right. Okay.
As a
Yep.
result, those clients had got various issues. And I just integrated my nutritional training on them, and they then referred clients. So we moved premises to a larger premises, and we became more of an integrated practice. We got other therapists on board, and we had about 8 therapists in total in various rooms. It was a much bigger premises, and it was great because it was so interactive, and we're referring internally, and it was really fantastic atmosphere there. It was a great business. Um, then I've sort of got a bit of an influx of autoimmune patients.
Okay.
And that took me into more and more research. And then that took me into the works of Datis Karazian and all his
Right.
studies. And then that took me to Apex Energetics. So I looked at the products, I looked at his work. He never directly
No,
mention.
he never mentioned them, but in fact, that's how I found you. I was reading his book, and he names the ingredients, and
That's right.
yep. And then I thought I've got to get hold of these products, and
Yeah.
that's how I found you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what I did was he put a list of helpful ingredients. I sort of put that list into Google and came up with a formula, Hexanergetics formula.
yeah.
That's just not coincidence, that is it? So then found out a little bit more about how he's involved with Apex, and then approached them, and I was taken aback by the fact that I was blank. It was a blank no. We're happy with the based in Irvine in California. We're happy with the US market. We're really not looking to expose ourselves to the international market.
Okay.
And yeah, again, it's a long story, but basically what I did was I did a lot of the training in the US, and went back to them and said, look, this is my commitment to you. I really want to make this work. Give me a chance. And thankfully, eventually they did. And that was the first brand I onboarded, but I had no intention of marketing to anyone else other than prescribing it to my patients. That was it. I had no inkling of why would I want to get involved in distributing supplements. It was more, I've got patients in need. These products I know can help, and they did.
Yeah.
So that was it. So brought in really, really small quantities, got excellent clinical results. And then, as you know, this industry, everyone knows everyone. And at various events and seminars, I just happened to drop into the conversation that, I was using this product or that product. And wow, you're bringing Apex in? Yeah. I'd really like access to that for my patients too.
Okay.
So then that a light bulb moment, thinking, well, these tools, these healing tools I'm using, why not give access to more practitioners? So then I went back to an old personal training client and who designed websites. And I said,
This is just fantastic.
how do you feel about helping me develop a website? Because Apex are super strict. They will not allow patients to order direct. It's
Yep.
got to be through an introduction through a practitioner. This is the scenario. Can you make this work? He said, yeah, that's fairly basic stuff, actually. And he introduced me to a fairly basic platform. Actually, the platform was free,
Yeah.
not commerce. I remember the name of it now. And he said, okay. So I said, how much then? He said, tell you what, Dave, 10 personal training sessions.
Oh my God, amazing.
So That was it. That was it. 10
It-
personal training sessions that paid for the very first iteration of what eventually turned, it was functional nutrition then, but what eventually evolved into Amrita Nutrition. So I put about half a dozen products on.
It's
Uh,
incredible,
the
incredible.
Turmero Actives, the Resveros, the what I call the staples.
Yes.
And sure enough, that was in I think 2007, 2008, and about September time. And between September and December, which was the end of financial year, we did about £600 in revenue. So from very small beginnings, very
Very
small beginnings.
small beginnings.
So started word of mouth, word of mouth spread quickly. More requests for more of the Apex range. So before we knew it, we had more, we onboarded more and more Apex products, and we got busier and busier and busier.
And then
And
how long was it until so how long was it that you just had Apex products and that was, and then before you then started to think, okay, I might look at bringing in some other
yeah,
brands that,
well, I'd got a few leads actually when I did my training with Apex.
yeah.
It was about 40 to 50 delegates, and you interacted with them, spoke to them, and the lady on the desk next to me, and I think it was the thyroid training, she'd got a bottle of, I think it was berberine actually, yeah, berberine Select from Moss Nutrition,
Ah,
and I said, Moss Nutrition, I've never heard of Moss Nutrition. Oh, she said, Jeff Moss is an incredible guy. He is so dedicated and he's just a wonderful resource. I go to Jeff for help with patients, and he's just wonderful. And I thought, oh, that sounds like an interesting conversation. So yeah, set up a call. Once we got Apex established, I set up a call with Jeff Moss, and Jeff Moss was the second brand, which we just immediately got on like a house on fire. And I just, he gave me his history and how he evolved into working with developing his own brand and Moss Nutrition, and his dedication to just ensuring the raw materials and everything met his exact specifications. So I thought, wow, this is a brand I want to work with too. So they were the second brand.
and
And
you have still to this day you have a monthly
I've
call with
obviously called
Jeff, don't you? And
with
it's such an important partnership for Amrita.
it
Um,
is.
yeah,
And we've actually been jointly involved in some of the formulations too, which is an honor. So that's really good. It's a great relationship we have. And I mean, no one knew of Moss outside the US, and a relatively small brand,
yeah,
but we've managed to gain traction for them, and that we are their biggest customer by far, and they're one of our biggest brands.
yeah.
So
What a beautiful partnership, you
it
know.
is a great partnership. Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
great partnership. And we're both
but
like-minded individuals.
you are.
He talks about his opinion on a certain topic, and I think, wow, that could have come from my mouth. It's as if we're two peas in a pod. So yeah, it
Oh,
works. Yeah,
and that doesn't surprise me, David, because from working with you and now working for you, I know that that it's the relationships that come first and foremost, and that's everything that you've just described has basically been how you said yourself. It's about people first, and that's really important for you to have that integrity within a relationship. And it's a partnership rather than it being a sales transaction, isn't it, for you? That's
yeah.
sort of very much at the core of Amrita, and you wanting
That's,
to support as much as you can other practitioners so that they can help their clients. That really shines through, and that's really at the core of what you've created with Amrita.
yeah, I guess, as we all know, there are literally millions and millions of products out there,
Sure.
hundreds of thousands of brands, and and they've got very, very good marketing departments.
Yes.
So it's sort of digging deeper than, all the marketing material, and getting to the grassroots of who is behind that brand and
Hmm.
what is their reason for being, I guess. And if you can establish that, and that matches, you know, the way you think, I think that's a big plus. That's a big plus. And I try, where possible, I try and have, Zoom calls with founders or decision makers in an organization. And that gives me a good gauge as to whether that's an organization we want to be working with.
I love that. That's
Um,
great.
so, but then, it's the organization, and I call nutraceuticals tools. And has that organization got any tools that will give our practitioners anything in addition to what we already offer? So, you can take on lots of generics, and the sea of generics becomes so huge. It's how do you
Yes.
differentiate one from another? So, for example, a recent call with Super Botanic was really enlightening because their berberine, the advanced berberine they do, and that dihydro berberine, the active metabolite, and I thought that's a little bit different. And certainly it's got increased bioavailability. So, that to me was a no-brainer that we should onboard that one because it's offering something a little bit different and potentially, enhanced outcome for clients. So yeah, it's that type of scenario anyway.
And that's the sort of, and that side of it that you're still very much involved with in terms of sourcing products, sort looking at innovative new products, talking to founders where you can. That's an area that you still are very much involved in, and I mean, I can just you find really engaging.
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I mean, meeting guys like Christian Draper, who's studied stem cells for 25.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my God, we went to Manchester. We met him and his business partner. I
You
was just
moved out of Sheffield. Wow, well done.
yeah, yeah.
Did you clear
And
your passport?
and I was just blown away by the dedication and the commitment to, the infrastructure he's had to put in place in these countries to enable these ingredients, which are, they're not ingredients traditionally used in supplements. They're unique and grown in relatively low amounts in the wild. And I just, we meet some incredible people, and yeah, it's fascinating because I didn't realize that stem cells production could be boosted naturally. And I learned a lot in that couple of hours I spent with him, and it's so enlightening because this industry, you're always learning. No one ever knows everything. It's evolving
No.
so quickly, and it's fascinating, and that's what keeps the energy there, I guess. Just because there's always something different to know about.
Yeah, it is ever changing for sure. It's evolving. And there is such incredible need for integrative, whatever term you want to call it, integrative medicine, functional medicine, nutritional therapy, naturopathy, wherever you quite hang your hat. But there is, for healthcare overall, there is just there is such an incredible need, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, the opportunities are huge, and I'm becoming more and more aware of people who are so frustrated with the traditional model, and they are
Hmm.
seeking alternatives. And that, already we see the markets expanding rapidly, but I think the potential is immense in the future.
Yeah,
Truly,
yeah, me
because
too.
we need allopathy. We do need it, but you know what we offer is a long-term solution. And I think also, rather than purely dealing with the symptoms once they've occurred, we've got an opportunity of preventing symptoms by picking up clues that perhaps a doctor wouldn't pick up. That prevents long-term issues.
Yeah, for sure. And are there when you talk about improving tool that Amrita can offer practitioners a broader toolkit? We sort of talk about that within the company, don't we? What is your vision for that toolkit for our Amrita practitioners? What is your vision for that?
Well, I think one of part of that vision is a big part of that vision.
Oh,
Uh,
God. I wasn't looking for that, but that's what
no, but
okay.
it is because I know how hard it was in the early days for me to establish a practice.
Yes.
And when I think about my studies and when I think about my cohort, how many of those are still involved in the industry? And there's very, very few.
Yes.
Uh, the last time we worked it out, and we occasionally meet, it would have been probably 3 or 4 years ago. And out of the 40, there were 7.
Gosh.
That's a huge loss. And why has that occurred? Well, all sorts of things happen in our lives, don't they? But I think that support mechanism in the very, very early stages of developing a practice are so important.
Yes.
And we're riddled with imposter syndrome. We are
Totally. Yeah, yeah, no,
the,
totally.
the
Totally.
nature of the beast. And, are we truly equipped when we leave college,
No.
when we leave our studies, traditional studies, are we truly equipped to start a business in the field? And we're not. We're simply not. So, and that's the education element and the confidence. And your roadmap series, that trying to give the practitioner confidence. And that's all you need in the early stages. It's just the confidence to go out there and do it, put into practice what you've learned,
Yeah.
and learn from people who've got a little bit more experience than you have.
Hmm.
Will just give you those stepping stones to establishing a successful practice, because we know the market is out there.
And feel like part of a community. That's what we're trying to create as well, isn't it? It's that we're building a community, because actually, and I think post COVID as well, sort of a lot of the interdisciplinary clinics have a lot of them, a lot of people haven't gone back to working in clinics, so it can be even more isolating. So really, we feel it's very important to harness a community, and that's what we're wanting to offer as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So they feel part and parcel of
Yeah,
Peter. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's also work going on in the back end, and we the sort of the business end of the platform, and how do we make life easier for practitioners with that regard, and we're working with other potential partners to again really make life easy, because we know, I know from my experience, and you do too, I'm sure, Tanya, is that our happy place is with our clients, and it's digging deep and peeling off those layers and finding out the root cause, and studying and listening to mentors and people we respect in the industry, and trying to get to the bottom of the problem or the issue. It's not necessarily diaries and bottom lines and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
we're looking at trying to make all that easier. So yeah, hopefully some
great,
news on that in the future.
great. Well, you've kind of preempted my final question, which was sort of anything that you would like to share about what practitioners can be hoping for towards the end of this year and into 2025 and beyond. Anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, I guess it is that practice management aspect. Um, there's so many um, there's so many companies out there offering solutions, but is there truly an ideal solution out there? And I don't believe there is.
Sure.
And, you know, development is immensely costly. Certainly, it's not something we can undertake on our own. So you have to find a partner. So it's finding that partner that you feel can offer everything that you want to offer and is flexible, and is a like-minded individual. And we think we found that partner, but there's more work to do. But when I see the potential, I'm quite excited by it, which is the
Great.
thing. And how can we provide other income streams for practitioners? And one thing is a online dispensary, and how can that be integrated into a practitioner's platform? So that is something else we're looking at, because if we can do anything to increase income for our practitioners, that's got to be a good thing.
See, he's always thinking of you. He's always thinking of you. That's what
Well, I
he
guess I've
does.
been there, haven't I? I've been there. We've been
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and we can so appreciate how hard it is.
yeah. So I said that was one final thing. Actually, what I would also just like to touch on is the fact that you, we as a company, took the decision to become B Corp, which is no mean feat. Could you sort of explain to our listeners what that actually means? Because it's sort of, I think the actual what it represents is really pivotal in as and how important it and how important it is in the roots of what Amrita stands for.
Yeah,
So
I guess it's our commitment to sustainability, and
love it.
and what I would say is I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I was the guy who said we need B Corp,
Right.
but
And then you handed it to Tom.
when you find out how much is involved in achieving B Corp status,
Yeah.
wow, it was such a glib statement, and it's more Tom, who's our MD, who
Yes.
has worked tirelessly, to look at every aspect of how we operate, and how we can become a more sustainable organization, and also how we can ensure that our staff are looked after, and that their well-being is looked after too. So yeah, huge undertaking, totally underestimated it, and but basically down to Tom. So thanks to Tom
Thanks
for
to Tom. Big thumbs
putting
up to
in
Tom for us.
all this paid work, because yeah, um, a massive undertaking. Yeah.
Well, and that sort of really sort of brings us full circle in terms of you started on your own, and then you sort of Lisa and your wife and sort of brought in you set up an interdisciplinary clinic, but it's essentially, and then you just had a website with bring one product on or one brand on, and you've surrounded yourself with people that actually you trust and that actually care about growing this business that correlates with your vision and your really important ethics as well. And I think that is really, it's just such a great opportunity for our practitioners to be able to hear it from you and be able to begin and be able to, for those of you maybe who are newer to the industry and haven't had the opportunity to meet David, it really gives you a really fantastic exposure to the face behind the name and how the business started. And actually, really, it's all about you. It's about helping to support practitioners to ensure that we don't get burnout and that we can keep growing this business that we are so passionate about. And it's such a dynamic and exciting industry, and Amrita is here to support you every step of the way.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely. Yeah, and I think the final message is, there's been some very dark days, and I've thought, what am I doing? And almost contemplated going back to that super stressful health club environment, you know, purely because it was so hard. But, you know, I truly believe if your passion is in the industry you're working in, you're so lucky. You're so lucky, and you've got to do everything you possibly can to see that dream come to fruition and put everything into it to make sure it works, because there are a lot of people out there doing jobs that, you know, is just purely a means of generating income.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky that we're in an industry that's so vibrant and that truly makes such a difference to people's lives and is so engaging. We're lucky. So yeah, that's it really.
Thank you, David. So fantastic to speak to you, and thank you so much. And I'm sure all of our listeners will be walking away with a smile on their face and a skip in their step. The views expressed in this podcast are that of the individual and not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors.